So next position we'll talk about on the position needs for the Giants in 2020, we're going to go to backup running back today. So of course the Giants have a guy that I've called the most talented running back in football on many occasions in Saquon Barkley, but as we saw last year, anyone can get injured, even a guy like with the body of Saquon Barkley who just doesn't seem human. But yeah, Saquon did miss 2.5, 3.5 games, whatever the number was. He did get his 1,000 yards and had a pretty good year last year. But you never know. It's the NFL. Anyone can get hurt, so you need to have depth at every position except for like maybe punter and kicker. But even that can sometimes come back to bite you. So for backup running backs, I'm really focusing on guys coming out of college. I know there's free agent NFL running backs that, guys that are veterans in the league at this point, but I wanted to focus on the younger college guys because those are just rocks that are unturned, and sometimes or a lot of times, you can find running backs that are actually really good in the later rounds. So I won't be talking about like J.K. Dobbins and DeAndre Swift and those type of guys. Zach Moss, they won't be mentioned in this video. I'm probably going to go for guys that are going to go in the second half of the draft, like 4th round and on. So that's what I'll be focusing on. And we'll see if you guys like this video. So let me know in the comments some sleeper picks at running back that you like. I'll let you know if I agree. I think I've watched just about every running back prospect because I'm just an idiot. I mean, I want to give you guys the best content, but that took a lot of time. So I'll admit, I didn't watch every single carry of everybody, but I think I got a good enough feel for everybody's talent. Of course, I'll be wrong on some people, but there's some guys that stood out and that I liked, and I'll name them in this video. So hopefully you guys enjoy this, and let's get into it. So option number 1 is Darington Evans from Appalachian or Appalachian. Some people say Appalachian, but I say Appalachian. I don't know which one it is. Let me know in the comments what you say, but I say Appalachian State. So in 2019, he had 5.8 yards per carry, 1,480 yards, 18 touchdowns, and 21 receptions for the 2019 season. His combine numbers were 4.41 40-yard dash, 20 bench reps, which is not bad for a running back, a vertical of 37 inches, pretty solid, and then a broad jump of 125 inches, which I think is average, or a little above average, not bad. So all pretty good numbers for the combine. My notes and takeaways on him when watching him: 5'10", 203 pounds, a pretty good size for a running back. I mean, maybe you would like him to be 10 to 15 pounds heavier, but that's fine. No complaints there. He was low-key really fast and quick. I mean, that's the type of guy I thought would be too fast, but when watching him, it was like he was just breaking away from defenders and even running away from cornerbacks and safeties. He was fun to watch. He's a solid receiver, very shifty, and also explosive. So he'd be a nice guy to pick in maybe the 5th or 6th round if he falls there. I think that'd be a great value. On to the next guy, Antonio Gibson. So this guy's interesting. He's from Memphis. He's a running back / wide receiver. So here's his numbers at both positions. So at running back, he had 33 carries, 369 yards, which is 11.3 yards per carry. I'll repeat, 11.3 yards per carry. Pretty insane. Had 4 touchdowns as well. As a receiver, he had 38 receptions, 735 yards, and 8 touchdowns. So 12 touchdowns total on the year. A very nice year for him. His combine metrics, I mean, his 40-yard dash time was really good, 4.39, which would have been tied first amongst running backs, but for some reason he tested with the wide receivers. I definitely think he should have tested with running backs because that probably would have made his number stand out even more, because when you run a 4.3940 as a wide receiver, you kind of blend in. I mean, I think Henry Ruggs ran a 4.24, whatever it was. So, I mean, you're not going to stand out like that, but still. His bench reps were 16, nothing, too great, a lot better than I would do, so I can't, criticize them too much. Vertical of 35 inches, that's pretty good, and a broad jump of 118 inches, which isn't too good, but it is what it is. So, his 40 time was elite, but everything else was pretty much average to below average. So, my notes on him: he's 6 feet tall, 228 pounds, and it's very impressive to run a 4.3940 at basically 230 pounds. I mean, we saw Isaiah Simmons do it, but he's basically a freak of nature himself. So, has a lot of speed, obviously. He's impressive. He's elusive. He's tough to bring down. I've noticed that as well. I mean, there's many times where we'll get into the open field and guys will just, be shaking tackles everywhere and stuff like that. I'll put the guys' highlights in here, by the way, so you guys can see what I'm talking about here. He definitely hits the right hole as a running back and play wide receiver too. And I said he's probably like a better version of Ty Montgomery and maybe a poor man's Percy Harvin. I know I'm going back like a decade with that, that one, but Percy Harvin at one point from the Vikings when Brett Favre was their quarterback was a terrific player. Unfortunately, concussions really pretty much ended his career, but Percy Harvin was electric for a little bit, especially at Florida in college as well. So, look, I mean, based off his combine and his 40 time, I think Antonio Gibson, based off his versatility as well, might be a guy who skyrockets in the draft process. But if he's sitting there in the 5th or 6th round and the Giants need a skill player on offense, because the Giants do need, they don't need a wide receiver, but to have a 4th wide receiver would be nice. Of course, they could bring back Corey Coleman or Cody Latimer. So there's options there, but if they move on from those guys and they have a hole at the wide receiver 4 spot, then maybe take a shot at Antonio Gibson. And you also have a backup running back spot that's probably going to be open as well. So that's an option. I think if the right team takes him, they could make Gibson a really good player, like if Sean Payton got a hold of him, or if he maybe went to the Ravens or something like that, like a really well-run offensive team, they can get the most out of him and make him a very, very good player in the NFL. Not sure about Jason Garrett and the Giants, but let's hope that he comes here and puts up some good numbers. Next is JaMycal Hasty, running back for Baylor. So in 2019, had 109 attempts, 627 yards, 5.8 yards per carry, 7 touchdowns, and 25 receptions, which is pretty good in college. I mean, 25 receptions in the NFL, not too good, but a lot of times you don't see college running backs with a lot of receptions. I mean, if you're getting like that over 30 receptions mark, that makes you a pretty good receiving back for college standards. So his combine numbers, 4.55 40 time, not too impressive, but you can live with it. Bench press 15 reps, not too great once again. His vertical was 39 inches. That's pretty good. 39 I think was like probably in like the top 10 area, so that's pretty good. Broad jump was 123, pretty good. But this was the crazy one. Had a 20-yard shuttle time of 4.03. So that was first among all running backs by 12/10 of a second. I have no idea how you beat the rest of the group by that much, but it's crazy because you look at like the 20-yard shuttle numbers, and it's like, I'll put the graphic in here, but you have like Hasty at 4.03, and then the next guy's at like 4.15, and you have 4.16, and like a bunch of guys in an area. But for some reason, this guy just blew that test out of the water. So I don't know what it is, but look, it shows your agility and your burst and stuff like that. So that's definitely great for a running back to do well in that type of that type of, I guess, activity you can call it maybe. I don't know. But my notes for him, he's 5'8", 205 pounds, pass catching ability, which is huge nowadays in today's NFL. Reminded me of Devonta Freeman. I don't know if it's like the hair and whatnot, but like, he was, I think, the same height as Freeman, around there, 5'8". I don't think Freeman's that tall, but honestly, reminded me a lot of Devonta Freeman, the Falcons running back. He's shifty, low gravity, runs close to the ground. He runs very hard, has good speed, not breakaway speed, but pretty good quickness. The type of guy, I always talk about the difference between being fast and being quick. Being quick is just how fast you accelerate, and he accelerates really well. So I was a big fan of that. He probably won't break any like 80-yard touchdowns in his career. He might, but probably not going to do it a bunch of times. But yeah, I really liked him. He's a guy who might go maybe in the 4th, 5th round, but if the Giants can get him in the 5th round, then I'd be fine with that. I think he's a guy who could be, look, his weight's just over 200 pounds. It's not really like a 3-down back type of thing, but I don't know what Devonta Freeman's weight is. I'm going to look it up right now, actually. I feel like that'd be a good thing to look into at this moment. So Devonta Freeman's weight, he's 209 pounds. So they're pretty close. I don't know. Devonta Freeman at one point was a 3-down back. Eventually he broke down, but now he's on a terrible contract. But yeah, he's only 4 pounds off from him. So I think the comparison's pretty good. And if he turns into Devonta Freeman at like a 5th round pick, that would be great value, and I would definitely take that. Up next is Levante Bellamy, running back for Western Michigan. In 2019, had 266 attempts, just under 1,500 yards, 5.5 yards per carry, 23 touchdowns, and 15 receptions. Did have 30 receptions in 2018, so I don't know why his reception total went down so much. He definitely got the full workload at running back, so I don't think he missed any games, but for some reason his receptions were cut in half. I don't know if there was a new coach there. I don't watch Western Michigan. But anyway, combine numbers, 4.5 40 on the dot. Not too bad, honestly. 16 reps, which is, I guess, all right for a running back. Vertical, 39.5 inches, pretty good. And broad jump, 125 inches, which I think is a little above average once again. So he's 5'9", 192 pounds. His patience and vision is just excellent. He's the type of guy you guys will see in the highlights. He gets the ball and just like pauses behind the line sometimes, especially out of shotgun when he's running. Sometimes when you're a running back, you're handed the ball and there's just an open lane right in front of you and you can't miss it unless you're like Trent Richardson or something like that. But, sometimes sometimes you hit the hole right away, but then there's a lot of times as a running back where you just kind of pause, wait for something to open up, and that's exactly what this guy does. He has a tremendous amount of patience. I loved it. Has enough breakaway speed, pass catching abilities, can make guys miss at the line of scrimmage and open fields. I was definitely a fan of that. Definitely the type of guy that can make, yards for himself and doesn't really need to rely on an offensive line. I think all running backs need to rely on an offensive line, some more than others, but a guy like Levante, Bellamy, I don't know what it was. He kind of reminded me of Le'Veon Bell. Not exactly. I'm not trying to say this guy is Le'Veon Bell, but the patience. I'll put the highlights in here. You can probably, kind of compare those guys patience-wise. I know Le'Veon Bell is not really matched talent-wise, especially in Pittsburgh. But, the patience is something that reminded me of Le'Veon Bell. And his name's kind of similar. Le'Veon Bell, Levante, Bellamy. Le'Veon. I don't know. It's close. But, yeah, I was a fan of his, and he might not go to the 5th or 6th round once again. So if the Giants took a shot on him, and, 192 pounds is not like 3-down back type weight. But at the same time, maybe he puts on 10 extra pounds and maybe becomes that one day. Of course, when Saquon Barkley's in front of you, that's not a main concern, but this guy can definitely come in and offer some spark plays and definitely open his own holes, and he'll be patient behind the line of scrimmage. Hopefully the Giants have a better offensive line next year so that a running back like Bellamy can come in here and basically use his max potential. Up next, and hopefully I pronounce this right, Salvon Ahmed, our running back from Washington. So last year at 188 attempts, just over 1,000 yards, 5.4 yards per carry, 11 touchdowns, and 16 receptions. So his combine numbers, they weren't that great. He only participated in 3 drills. His 40 time was 4.62. Not great, but not terrible, I guess. Vertical was 34.5. I guess that's a little below average. No, that's not too bad. I would say it's average. Broad jump, 120 inches. I think that's maybe a little bit below average, but not great once again. He's 5'11", 197 pounds. Let's round him up, 200 pounds. Patience is really good, just like the last guy, Bellamy, we talked about. I actually compared him to Le'Veon Bell. This is the Le'Veon Bell guy I was talking about. So Bellamy was pretty good at it, but for some reason, Ahmed was just even better with his patience. So he always finds the hole, has good speed. He's really shifty, can make guys miss. He doesn't have like a LaShawn McCoy type juke move, but it's not too bad. So he's sometimes tough to bring down, really good vision and patience, and he might not be a 3-down back in the NFL. It's tough at that weight, obviously. 200 pounds, I guess, is not too bad, but it's hard for a guy coming out of Washington being a late round pick to just jump into a 3-down back role all of a sudden. But sometimes there's injuries in front of you, and that's what happens. So I think as long as this guy has a decent offensive line, he can have himself a pretty nice NFL career. He just has a lot of juice, and for some reason, when you're, I don't want to say I'm scouting these guys because I'm not a scout, I'm just a fan watching film of players, but sometimes when you look at the list of players, you're like, why the hell is this guy all the way down here? And that's exactly what I said about Ahmed. I'll try to find out which round Walter Football had him going. I have to go way down here. So Salvon Ahmed, Washington, where is this? I am way down in the 30s at this point, so I'm probably not going to find it. It's down. Oh, here it is. Salvon Ahmed. They have him going 6th round to free agency, so he could be in the 6th round to undrafted free agent, according to Walter Football. But they also had Denzel Mims going from 6th round to undrafted free agent as well, so I don't know what they're talking about sometimes. But yeah, it was very surprising to see him all the way down here. I know his stats aren't too flashy. I know barely over 1,000 yards isn't too great, but 5.4 yards per carry is not bad. 11 touchdowns isn't bad, and this guy on tape looks really good in my opinion. So you guys will see the highlights. Let me know what you think about him. And the last guy we'll get to is, hopefully I'm pronouncing this one right, Torin Young. It might be Teron Young. I've never heard of Torin, but maybe Teron Young, running back for Iowa. 2019, he was the 3rd string guy. He got the 3rd most attempts on this team in terms of rushing attempts. So he had 81 attempts, 432 yards, 5.3 yards per carry. His yards per carry was the best on the team, for a certain amount of carries. I'm not going to include one guy who had a 20-yard run, but for a certain amount of carries, he had 81, 5.3 yards per carry. Only had 1 touchdown, which is surprising because this is a big guy. So he did not participate in the combine, so no numbers there. But he's one of those guys that he got a lot of carries one year. I forget if it was 2 years ago or last year, but he had a pretty decent year. And, he's a really big guy, 6'1", 220, was big, tough runner, really good balance for 220 pounds. That really stood out to me. He's tough to bring down, good speed for his size. As I mentioned before, a 2nd or 3rd string option, at school when he was playing. So, sometimes there's just untapped potential. Sometimes you could draft a guy who was the backup or the 3rd string even, and, sometimes teams might not see that. So Honestly, I compared him to Royce Freeman, the guy who used to play for Oregon, now plays for Denver Broncos. I was a big Royce Freeman guy for fantasy football. He burnt me a couple years in a row, but still, watching his style was definitely kind of, I guess, kind of just like Royce Freeman in a way. He's not exactly, Royce Freeman was breaking records at Oregon, but it wasn't too far off. If you watch those guys, I don't think it's too crazy to make that comparison. So, Young from Iowa wasn't too bad. So, I think he might be another guy who's like a 6th round to free agent type guy, so maybe the Giants take him as an undrafted free agent. I don't know. There was some other guys I wanted to list off real quick. I got to go to my scouting page here in the Google Docs real quick. So, not talking about those top guys. There was some guy from Monmouth that I can definitely see the Giants taking a shot on. I forget his name. It was something Gutierrez, but the Giants love taking shots on those Monmouth guys. Of course, I can't find it now. Oh, here it is. Pete Guerrero. So he's 5'10", 190, went to Monmouth, 6.7 yards per carry. I think he broke some kind of rushing record there. I don't know if it was single season, but nearly had 2,000 yards last year, 32 receptions. He was a track and field guy. He's from Lyndhurst, New Jersey. He's elusive, very good speed, a tough runner, and a decent pass blocker as well. So they might take a shot on him. I don't know if he's an NFL talent, but he looked good against the people that Monmouth were playing, so, that's definitely a good thing. Not really anyone else. There's some guys in here, but I'm not really going to, waste time talking about them. So after this, we'll get into the NFL guys, but that's pretty much it for college. Once again, let me know in the comments who you like for college sleepers, because if there's a prospect in this draft at running back, I've probably watched them, so I'll let you know my opinion. There are actually some people I want to get into that I do not see the hype for whatsoever, so let me get into those guys. There's a guy named Larry Roundtree III, running back from Missouri. I gave him a 5 out of 10, which is pretty low for me. I'm very generous with these grades, but a 5 out of 10, not good for me. I did not see the appeal with him. Who else do we have here? There was Keyshawn Vaughn from Vanderbilt. I didn't see it at all. 5'9", 205, was not explosive at all in my opinion. He just looked like he was in quicksand, honestly. That's probably how I would look at running back, but then again, I'm not entering the NFL draft, so that's not my responsibility. But there was a few guys in this running back class where I was like, no, I would not touch them. So I don't know. Their numbers looked all right, I guess, but when you watch them on tape, I was just like, I am not impressed at all. Some guys looked like they were in quicksand. So that's it for college guys. Now we'll get into the NFL free agents. So for NFL free agent running backs, of course the top one here is Derrick Henry at 26 years old. I actually heard someone on WFAN once I actually tweeted about this. He was like, should the Giants try and trade Saquon Barkley for Derrick Henry? And there was so much wrong with that. Like the recency bias, this was during the Final Four of the NFL season during the championship rounds. And of course, Derrick Henry was putting up these crazy numbers. But I was like, how are you going to propose? Saquon Barkley is a better player than Derrick Henry. You can argue with me all you want, but Saquon Barkley is a better all-around player. Derrick Henry is nowhere near the receiver that Saquon Barkley is. And I know Derrick Henry is a much more powerful runner and stuff like that. He's the old-school smash-mouth type guy, but he put up great numbers in the last 2 Decembers and even the playoffs this year. But, he's not Saquon Barkley. Let's be honest here. If Saquon Barkley was behind Tennessee's offensive line, then we'll see. But that's why. Running backs depend on their offensive lines and such in front of them and the systems they run. Pat Shurmur's system wasn't too great. The Giants' offensive line was even worse. So you can't benefit from that if you're Saquon Barkley. But some reasonable free agents here. Kareem Hunt, that's probably a no for me. Kenyon Drake is going to get paid a lot probably. That's a no for me. Melvin Gordon, Austin Eckler's a guy I would love to have. Austin Eckler, I love him, but he's going to cost too much money. I think he would go back to the Chargers anyway. I think he's a restricted free agent, so probably wouldn't happen, but I would love to have him. Matt Breida's not a bad option. He definitely has some trouble staying healthy, but he's very talented, so if he stayed healthy, he'd be fine. Jordan Howard's only 25, with the Eagles, so I guess Miles Sanders will be the starter there next year in year 2. He's more of a powerful back. I don't think Jordan Howard offers too much in the receiving game, although he has gotten better throughout his career, but he's still not a really good receiving back by any means, and that's not really the complete back you would want. DeAndre Washington, Jonathan Williams, Carlos Hyde. Carlos Hyde had a nice year. Lamar Miller coming off an ACL tear. Maybe you get him on a cheap deal. Chris Thompson's an interesting one. Talking about guys who never stay healthy. Chris Thompson from the Redskins, one of the better receiving backs in football that not many people probably heard of. But I'm sure watching Giants games, we know about Chris Thompson by now. But fans from the AFC might not know who Chris Thompson is. But he's 29, really good receiving back. He won't really do much in between the tackles, but he's a third down back who can do a lot for you. But LaShawn McCoy, 32 years old. Marshawn Lynch, 30. I would love Marshawn Lynch. I'm a big Marshawn Lynch guy, so having him here would be fantastic. It just won't happen, though. Peyton Barber, he killed the Giants last year or 2 years ago, whatever it was. He had over 100 yards against us, I think, but Not really a flashy guy. He's just meh. Then you have Frank Gore, 37 years. I could see, look, if there's a guy Dave Gettleman could sign at running back, it is Frank Gore, baby. I can see that happening for sure. Would not shock me. I'm surprised Cameron Artis-Payne from the Panthers hasn't came here yet. I think he plays in the XFL now anyway. So, Corey Clement, that guy had a good Super Bowl. Jalen Richard, I don't know, he resigned with the Raiders. That would be an interesting one. J.D. McKissick, Bilal Powell, Theo Riddick, he was good at one point receiving back. Ty Montgomery, that's a guy I wanted. I think I had him in my other channel for the offseason video. I like Ty Montgomery. I'd rather have Gibson from Memphis and just take a better version than Montgomery. But if Ty Montgomery wanted to sign here for cheap, I would definitely take that. He's a fine option who could play wide receiver and running back. CJ Prosise had a lot of potential. He gets hurt all the time. It's pretty. I mean, there's really not much else to talk about here. I'm getting down to Darren Sproles, Kenneth Dixon. I'm a big Kenneth Dixon guy. He never stays healthy, unfortunately. So that's about it. Rod Smith, he was a Giant last year at this time, I think. Rod Smith, it sounds familiar with the Cowboys. So there's really not much in free agency I would take a look at. I'll look at this one more time. I mean, as I said, Matt Breida on a good deal I would definitely be interested in. Maybe Chris Thompson. That's about it. There's really nothing. I mean, these are older guys. I would rather take the 21, 22, 23-year-old running back on a very cheap contract and see what they could put out for 4 years or so. And if it doesn't work, then who cares? You have Saquon Barkley right in front of them. So that's all I got. This is probably much longer than I expected it to be, but hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know if you did. As always, subscribe and, tell people about this channel because we're trying to make it blow up, obviously. So hopefully you enjoyed this video, and I'll talk to you next time.